Hey guys, we're back. This is the third installment of our Bible study series on the book of Matthew. Today we're going to pick up in Matthew chapter 2, verse 13. Now last time we spent a little bit of time and we actually ran a little long, about 5 minutes long on our video. I told y'all we're going to try to keep these to about 15 minutes. We'll do that if we can. If not, we'll run over a little bit, maybe shorter sometimes, longer sometimes. Hopefully you can stick with us and we'll keep your interest piqued. So last time we spoke about the Magi, and we talked about what the Magi were, and we talked about what the Magi weren't, and we even speculated a little bit. I told you that Scripture doesn't say how many Magi were there, that we based the fact that there were 3 Magi on the fact that there were 3 gifts mentioned: gold, frankincense, and myrrh. One of the things I didn't mention last time that I'm going to follow up on this time and add, and hopefully if you didn't see the last one, you go watch the last one and catch up, and then come back and watch this one. The reason I believe that gold, frankincense, and myrrh were the 3 gifts that were mentioned is those were the most valuable, treasured gifts you would give to a king. Those were the most valuable gifts at the time that you could give. It's gold, frankincense, and myrrh. A lot of preachers have made lots of, I think probably read more into it than it needs to be. Myrrh was an embalming scent that you would use to embalm someone after they died. I heard a lot of preachers say, well, that was a foretelling of the, maybe, sure. You want to believe that? Knock yourself out. I wouldn't put up a big fuss over that. But the reality is gold, frankincense, and myrrh were the most valuable things at the time that you would give to a king. You would give those things to a king and recognize their worth, their value. And we talked about the fact that these Magi were coming, these astrologers, these soothsayers, these sorcerers, these wizards, whatever you want to call them, most properly astrologers. These would have been guys who would have been very, very familiar with the stars. One of the most interesting things I've heard over the years about the Magi, and I've come to find out there are quite a number of people that believe this, is that the Magi going to Jesus were actually an assassination attempt. Yeah. Okay, moving along. Gold, frankincense, and myrrh would have been those most valuable things. But the fact that we only had 3 gifts mentioned doesn't mean that there were only 3 gifts there. I talked to you about 2 Kings 5 and 2 Kings 8, and the fact that in another example in the Old Testament, that one king was sending a message to another king asking for the commander of his army to be healed. The gift that he sent him just to have his prophet heal his commander: 750 pounds of silver, 150 pounds of gold, and 10 sets of royal garments. That's just one example, one king to another king. The other example we used was in 2 Kings chapter 8, and that was the king of Aram asking Elisha to petition God and inquire of God. The king of Aram was sick, and he wanted to know from Elisha, this prophet, he wanted to know whether or not he was going to recover from this illness. And the king of Aram tells one of his sidekicks, go and take a gift, is what Scripture says, a gift to Elisha, to this man of God, for him to petition God on my behalf. And what you want to know what that a gift was? We talked about it last time. That a gift was 40 camel loads of the finest wares in Damascus. So what we read and what we interpret and what we've been taught aren't always the same thing with what actually happened. Do we know if there were 3 wise men there? No. Do we know if there were 300 wise men there? No. Do we know if this caravan that started in the east, we don't know how far east, again, it's all speculation. We don't know. There's no way to verify it. But this caravan that started, I mean, if one king to one prophet, hey, ask God if I'm going to get better, constituted 40 camel loads of gifts, and these men knew that they saw this star that was representative of Jesus, the King of the Jews, the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Don't you think it would have been more than 3 cats riding on 3 camels across the desert? Sure it would have. This is the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. And most likely as this caravan went across from the east and they went through these different villages and towns and they told people where they were going, they probably picked up more than that. This could have been hundreds upon hundreds of camels that went. We don't know what this looked like. Can we verify it? No, it's just speculation. It's opinion, but it's fun. And like I told y'all last time, please, for the love of all that is good and holy, take the Magi, take them out of the nativity scene, because they didn't come to the manger. They came to Jesus' house. So enough about that. We wasted time getting into the summary. Let's jump into verse 13. When they had gone, the Magi, when they had gone, because remember, we were kind of rushed at the end, but verse 12 says, and having been warned in a dream not to go back to Herod, because remember, Herod told the Magi, when you find Jesus, come back to me, report it back to me. The word report means to announce it, proclaim it, so that I can announce it to all of Jerusalem that the King of the Jews has been born. No, that wasn't going to happen. We find out later Herod's goal was to kill Jesus, not to worship him. Then it says in verse 12, and having been warned in a dream not to go back to Herod, they returned to their country by another route. So they did not go back and tell Herod where Jesus, the Christ child, was. Verse 13, when they had gone, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream. Get up, he said, take the child and his mother and escape to Egypt. Stay there until I tell you, for Herod is going to search for the child to kill him. Okay. So he got up, took the child and his mother during the night, and left for Egypt, where he stayed until the death of Herod, and so was fulfilled what the Lord had said through the prophet, out of Egypt I called my son. Folks, this is not going to sit well with some of you, and that's okay, because my purpose in this is to enlighten you, not to necessarily make you happy and content. There's a lot of hot button topic going on right now in our country, and I'm going to break something to you as simple as I can break it to you. Jesus and his family were refugees. Jesus and his family were refugees. They were escaping a king that wanted to kill their son. King Herod wanted to kill Jesus. The Lord told Joseph that in a dream, and they left their country and went into a foreign land to seek refugee status, so to speak. I'm not going to harp on that. You can think on it, study on it. You can search your own heart about that. But I'm going to say it again just in case you were not paying attention. Jesus and his family were refugees. Let's keep going. So he got up, verse 14, took the child and his mother during the night, and they left for Egypt, where they stayed until the death of Herod, and so was fulfilled what the Lord had said through the prophet, out of Egypt I called my son. Verse 16, when Herod realized that he had been outwitted by the Magi, he was furious. And he gave orders to kill all the boys in Bethlehem and its vicinity who were 2 years old and under, in accordance with the time he learned from the Magi. Remember, back at the beginning of chapter 2, he asked him exactly what time, chronos being the word, what time, exactly when did you see the star? Herod knew exactly how old Jesus would have been at this time. Once Herod realized the Magi left Jerusalem, they went on this long journey to Bethlehem. I told y'all it was 5 miles. So if they were walking, slow walking, it took them about 2 hours to get there. They were supposed to look for the child and report back to Herod. Do you think that took 6 months? Of course not. They found Jesus. Why? How do we know it didn't take 6 months? Because they were following the star. The star led them right to the house. They presented Jesus with their gifts, and they were on their way. Days, not weeks or months. They went from Jerusalem. They went to Bethlehem. They saw Jesus, presented their gifts. They left. Once Herod realized they weren't coming back, he was lit up, boy. Stirred up like a wet hornet's nest. So after he realized he was outwitted, he gave an order in Bethlehem and its vicinity where all male children 2 years and younger to be killed. That's why we know Jesus was probably 18 months to 2 years old when the Magi came to see him. Don't get caught up in the mythology and traditions and folklore, guys. Study Scripture. Reason these things out for yourself. And if you reason these things out and see them and hear me telling you this and you still don't believe, that's your business. Knock yourself out. Verse 17, then what was said through the prophet Jeremiah was fulfilled. A voice is heard in Ramah, weeping in great mourning. Rachel weeping for her children and refusing to be comforted because they are no more. Herod slaughtered all of the children 2 years old and younger, the male children. Thankfully, because Jesus was a refugee with his family, he was in Egypt, was saved. Verse 19, after Herod died, an angel of the Lord appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt and said, get up, take the child and his mother, and go to the land of Israel, for those who were trying to take the child's life are dead. So he got up, took the child and his mother, and went to the land of Israel. But when he heard that Archelaus was reigning in Judea in place of his father Herod, he was afraid to go there. Having been warned in a dream, he withdrew to the district of Galilee, and he went and lived in a town called Nazareth. So was fulfilled what was said through the prophets, he will be called a Nazarene. Folks, every step along the way, Jesus going into Egypt with his family, being called out of Egypt with his family, fulfilled prophecy. Him going into Nazareth, instead of going back to Jerusalem, fulfilled prophecy. Everything happens for a reason. Never forget that. You may see it and I may see it as something that's terrible, that's awful, that slows up our progress, even that's something that's threatening to us, that causes our plans to be deviated. Ladies and gentlemen, our plans aren't what's important. God's plans are what's important. You trust him, he'll never lead you astray. No two ways about it, I guarantee you. It may not look like you thought it should look. It may not feel like you wanted it to feel. You may not be going in the direction that you feel like you should have been going. Trust him. Lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him. He's never going to let you down doing that. Folks, we finished with chapter 2. It took us 2 sessions to get through with chapter 2, but I think we went into some really good stuff. I think that it was well worth it. We're finishing a little bit shorter on time this time. We went a little over last time. We're a little shorter this time. So we will start fresh and clear on our next session with chapter 3. We get to start looking at John the Baptist. That is one very cool cat. And we will see the baptism of Jesus. And we will see what the baptism was and what baptism isn't. Spoiler alert. See you next time.